Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I'm JT, joined by Jake, Frank, and Lounis, the usual crew. A lot of news and notes to get to, so we're just going to kick it right into it. I'll bring everyone along as we go. The biggest news that dropped today, Tom Brady officially retiring. There's some doubt over the weekend, but it's finally came true. Tom Brady no longer going to be playing in the football league, which will be the first time since I think all of us can remember football. It'll be a weird world. It's an end of the era without Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers, Eli. I guess we'll even throw in there. Just a whole squad of players that no longer are playing quarterback in the National Football League. We already touched on it last week, so I don't know. For me, I think the only thing it really means is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to need to find a new quarterback. And Lounis, Kyle Trask was your guy last year. Talking about Florida guy.
I was gonna say they don't need to find a new one.
Is there any shot that he's the starting quarterback?
No, because they already have a championship roster. Why would they give it I feel like they're just gonna go for a veteran. I don't think they're gonna draft someone. I think they're gonna try to acquire one of those bigger names, or even Jimmy G. Because they're still in win now mode from their roster. Their defense is still insanely good.
I have to look into it because I think their cap situation is a little iffy. I think they went just kind of all in, didn't care about the cap for the past 2 years, and now they might be in a pretty rough spot. And if that's the case, I wouldn't doubt them just kind of taking a year to reset the cap and giving Kyle Trask a chance. They did throw second round draft capital at him. But I think the more likely scenario is they go for a bridge quarterback, whether that's Jimmy G, Teddy Bridgewater, someone like that.
Frank, what do you think? What's Tampa's starting quarterback?
Kyle Trask.
I can't be. Right?
I'm rooting for it.
It can't be.
Yeah, you're rooting for it, but that's I feel like you're kind of pulling a Mason Rudolph there. We're gonna commit to being 8-8 this year. I mean,
if Kyle Trask gets you 8-8, that's good.
No, yeah, but it's not Kyle Trask doing it. It's the roster. That's a good team. I don't know. It's going to be weird to see what happens with the Bucs. I feel like there's going to be quite a bit of a rebuild going on there from the outside looking. I mean, I don't know. The defense is nice, but I don't know. I really don't see them being anywhere near as much of a threat. I feel like part of it is because I just don't believe that much in Bruce Arians, right? To transition after Brady.
Well, there's also a lot of reports. I mean, we're starting to stray a little from the dynasty stuff, but there are reports of turmoil in the locker room. You have AB literally stripping on the sideline saying, "Get me out of here." You got Bruce Arians getting fined the following week for slapping a player in the back of the helmet. It's definitely not, a tight, well-run organization, I'd say, at least from Arians' standpoint. And I do think he's not a good coach. I've heard rumors. They're rumors, but there's a lot of Tom Brady involved in the coaching of the team and everything, and a lot of it ran through Tom Brady, which I wouldn't be surprised about. You literally had Bruce Arians going, "Yeah, there's no chance Antonio Brown will be a member of our team." What happens just a couple weeks later? Antonio Brown's a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know. Yeah. To me, it didn't seem like Arians had the reins on the team. I think that's enough on that. Some other news that, there's coaching hirings. There's some other coaching drama. We're going to get to all that later. We'll just elect to do a bigger segment once everyone's hired. Once we know who's where, we can, do an in-depth analysis on that. What is interesting and not being talked about enough, I would say, is the Senior Bowl is going on. We got all the seniors showed up. They're getting their heights and weights and measurements. And like every year, who would have guessed? The schools may have embellished their heights and weights. And so running backs that we thought were 6'1", 215, 6'2", 225. Yeah, maybe they're 5'11", 195. Maybe pretty big differences in terms of what you look for in NFL prospects and what you want to find from players. I don't know. We'll get the official tallies later on. It'll be fun to see next week once we get to see everyone playing and stuff. What we've heard so far is Carson Strong has looked good. Malik Willis looks good. Brian Robinson looks good. Any other names you guys been seeing that?
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, the quarterbacks have been all over the place. I'm actually. They didn't air the Senior Bowl live, but they're showing a thing
Kinda
like a
compilation.
recap or something at 8:00, which is in 30 minutes. I've got that bad boy recorded. So yeah, we're gonna do a whole Senior Bowl segment because I think the next 2 practices are aired and then obviously the game. But I'm gonna be eyes glued to that TV for the Senior Bowl stuff. But you're gonna hear mixed opinions on every single quarterback. I saw love for just about everyone. I saw some dude saying, "Oh, dude, Sam Howell's got the zip on the football. He's got the best arm." And then someone saying, No. Carson Strong, I'm telling you, has more zip on that football than anyone else." And you got someone being like, "Fuck Desmond Ritter." And then you got like the Malik Willis stands over here saying something. So it's just a crapshoot. I'm going to have to watch for myself to see what's going on.
Yeah. It's a lot of these players, I think, start to get overhyped and you get the overdrafting of certain guys. But it is a good start to see everyone's height and weight and see which guys stick out just at least among the Senior Bowl. Because
Well, you want to know what's interesting is because we were talking about, we made that joke that people's weights and heights and hand measurements are off. Tyler Beatty weighing in 199, where he was listed, I think, as 194 or 195 on Missouri's website. So like an extra 5 or 6 pounds over expected. I mean, you can imagine that he was looking to put on that weight for NFL teams. So maybe his playing weight is more like 195, but at the same time, that's nice. That may actually be relatively impactful for showing a team that he can be playing at around 199, 200.
I think Etienne did the same thing. If
He did.
Yeah. Well, Ramondre Stevenson tried doing the opposite thing and just tried losing a bunch of weight, which he did. And
I remember Rager did that,
fine.
and it kind of hurt him because I think it was in between his pro day and the combine. He tried to put on weight
slower,
and then he ran slower. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, not a whole lot of news to go off yet. Well, we'll have a whole report next week when we get the full shebang. All right, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. They managed to beat the Kansas City Chiefs for the second time this season. Crazy stuff. What we have, though, I think, is maybe we're starting to overrate Joe Burrow at this point. Frank was yelling, sorry, Frank, but Frank was yelling, "Sell all Bengals, sell all Bengals."
Cincinnati's gotten their revenge.
Now they're in the Super Bowl. Cincinnati fans clown Frank.
Yeah, it was rough times. Hey, I did pick the Rams to go to the Super Bowl too, though.
Yeah, well, now you better hope they win and defend your own.
Yeah, now I'm really hoping they win because I've got a future bet on them to win the Super Bowl, and like, it's the fucking Bengals, so a lot of pride riding on this game for me.
Joe Burrow has looked really good though, and it is like a coming out moment for him in the terms of he's now put himself in that top tier of those young AFC quarterbacks where you have now Mahomes, Kyle Allen, Justin Josh Allen, not Kyle Allen. Josh Allen, not Kyle Allen. Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow is right there. But to the point of that he might be overvalued. So I'm just going to transition us right into, trades that we might have made this week. And Lounis, you were able to trade Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so Joe Burrow's dynasty stock, I guess just like recency bias seeing these postseason games, but his kind of just like general consensus view and ranking of him is at like an all-time high. Like it's jumped significantly, even from like the end of the fantasy season, whether that was week 16, week 17. It's just increased a ton, and to the point where normally I'd say at the end of the season we probably had him like QB7, QB6. Yeah, so just recently I was able to trade Burrow for Kyler Murray in a second. Who Kyler Murray before the end of the regular season was, I feel pretty much everyone had him ahead of Burrow. And now
you said
QB1.
Kyler Murray quarterback one.
I did.
Clown.
Hey, listen, man, there's still time.
You got the clown treatment from Frank.
Listen, all I'm saying, Kyler
Murray's time to be QB1 is past.
He's not blowing that 21-3 lead. But going forward, what was I gonna say? I just feel like now if I own or if I'm have Joe Burrow, I'm kind of testing the market. Like I'm seeing like, oh, could I pivot to Herbert? Could I pivot to like a Josh Allen or even like a Mahomes or Kyler? Like the guys that have normally been above him, even if they still rank those guys ahead, it's gonna take way less to add on to Burrow to get like a Josh Allen or a Herbert. So I'd be testing the market for him if you have him.
I think this is a similar situation to Jonathan Taylor a couple of weeks ago, where he has that crazy performance where he gets like 50 something points. He goes to the number one asset on Keep Trade Cut. Everyone knows that Jonathan Taylor's great, and then he's in just all the talking points, right? He's starting to get some MVP conversation. You just know that you should test the market there. You just should, because if you can get that offer, they're only gonna go down because there's no way the hype can continue at maximum strength. I mean, you're basically hoping that if you're buying Joe Burrow at this crazy value, that he has a crazy Super Bowl, he goes absolutely nuts, and it becomes like the number one dynasty asset. But I think his price has reached basically Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, so I'm selling at that.
Yeah, and just looking at Joe Burrow's stats, um, he did put up 33 points against Cleveland in his first season, in his rookie season, when he passed for nearly 50 times. And then the only other time he even broke that 30-point mark was against the Ravens without any of their secondary at the end of the season when Jamar Chase went crazy, and then the following week against Kansas City to wrap up the season, or well, the second to last game. While the likes of a Kyler Murray, who Lounis just was able to trade for and get a second on top of, he does that like 3-4 times a season. Like he's done that multiple times, and people would say he had a down season this year. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like at least 8 or 9 times in the past 2 seasons he's managed to do that. It's just like points are what you want, and Kyler Murray, there's very few other quarterbacks who are capable of putting up the ridiculous numbers that Kyler Murray could put up in a game. Lamar Jackson's like the only one that comes to mind in terms of that, but yeah, I just think making that kind of move where you're getting Kyler Murray and a second on top of it, that's almost a no-brainer. Pivoting Joe Burrow into Patrick Mahomes, no-brainer. And I think these are deals that, unlike what we were saying with Jonathan Taylor, where maybe you couldn't get stuff like that done just because of like how super inflated he was. With Joe Burrow, he's like the only guy playing currently of any of those guys. So he's the only guy that's going to stay in people's minds. He's going to potentially get those deals done for you. And Lounis is just a prime example of that, where he was able to get that kind of deal done.
Lounis, I just really like that deal, the way that you structured it, going into another top end quarterback. Because if you can get a really solid price to move from Burrow, because you might be able to get more from moving Burrow into Dak, someone who kind of had a rough year.
Or like Lamar.
Yeah, or Lamar, where like some of these guys, they're still great quarterbacks. They're worth a lot, but they have a couple more blemishes right now on their resume. Because if you can create like a first round pick worth of value, if that's the difference between those two quarterbacks right now, Burrow and Dak, I love that. Or a very early second. I just think that you're almost creating a pick because
it's
you
free
have
value.
a quarterback
It's
that yeah.
I think it's pretty much free value because at the end of the season, for 95% of the season, whatever it was, like Dak, Lamar, Joe Burrow, they were all in that same tier. So if you're staying within that tier and you're gaining a first round pick, an early second round pick, it's absolutely a free value and it's a no-brainer move.
It just really feels like one of those types of deals that looks good a year from now. When that pick, especially if you're going for like a 2022 pick, not a 2023 or a 2024 pick, right? Say you're just like, okay, well, this guy really loves his 2023 first. The 2023 first is beginning so much hype. You go for a 2024 first and Dak in exchange for Joe Burrow. All of a sudden, come that 2024 draft, and 2 years down the road, I feel like you're going to look back on that deal and be like, wow, I'm so happy that I did that to get this first round pick at a really cheap price.
Yeah. The fact that Keep Trade Cut says it takes, a mid to late first on top of Lamar to get Joe Burrow,
that's insane.
Seems pretty crazy to me. Yeah. All right, but let's move on from that trade. I had a trade that I was talking about, but I couldn't get it done. Negotiations went back and forth, but I thought it was interesting and I wanted to bring it up on the podcast. So I have Trey Lance in one of our leagues, and one of our league mates came to. He's actually in the chat right now. What's up, Parker?
Going on,
He came to me with offering me 105 and I believe it was 204 for Trey Lance originally. And I've said it before, I'm just not really a fan of this quarterback class. And if I'm moving Trey Lance, I probably want to snag another quarterback. I don't think it makes sense for me to trade Trey Lance when I would go down to only 2 QBs and one of them being Baker Mayfield, who I'm not super confident in. So that I didn't want to do, but I digress. Anyway, so he happens to have Deshaun Watson, and his team, it's not incentivized to tank. He's definitely in a rebuilding period or retooling period, I'd say, but he doesn't have his first round pick come 2023. So he's not incentivized to tank. So a Trey Lance and Nick Chubb trade is what I offer. Trey Lance plus Nick Chubb for 105, 204, and Deshaun Watson, which, if we look at the keep trade cut value, I will pull it up now. I believe it's basically a fair trade. Let's see. But anyway, I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that. You're trading one unknown for a different unknown in terms of Trey Lance and what he's going to be for Deshaun Watson and if he even plays. And then you're trading Nick Chubb for 105 and 204 in a draft class that's good, not great. What would you guys feel about that trade? I'll reiterate it so you guys remember. It's Trey Lance plus Nick Chubb for 105, 2022, 105, 204, and Deshaun Watson.
I think it really depends on how much you value Watson, because if you think that Watson is gonna come back, be fine, and be that top end quarterback again, well, then it's easily the Watson side I would take.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you're one of these people that wants nothing to do with Watson and think he's always going to be outside of those top 7 quarterbacks right now, I think that's the tier 1. There's about 7 of them. I think I'd rather have the Lance and Chubb side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right about 7. You got Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar, Dak, Kyler, Herbert. I think that's
pretty much, yeah.
7. Yeah, that wasn't in any specific order, by the way, but just what I was thinking. Yeah,
even with the uncertainty of Watson, I don't know, because I mean, for me and JT, I know you're also kind of on the same side as me with this, with just being higher on Trey Lance than I guess most dynasty players. So for me, just being as high, going forward, I'd rather have Lance than Watson. I do understand the uncertainty with Watson, and I'm probably not on the lower end of the scale where it's nothing to do with him. I never want to do any kind of trade involving him. But at the same time, it's I don't know what to expect, a year off of football, or we'll see when he's able to come back. There's uncertainty with it. Is he gonna just continue the exact same level of play? He's a year older, or however much time. Versus Lance, I've just always been insanely high on Lance. And Nick Chubb, we all love. So that's what makes it interesting in a draft class 2022, where it's not like last draft class in terms of just talent around that 105 range that's going to be available. So I think it's pretty fair. It does ultimately come down to your opinion on Watson, of where you rank him in those dynasty quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I think if Watson plays and if Trey Lance lives up to his potential, Watson's the better quarterback. We've already seen it. He was a top 3 dynasty asset previously, before all this legal issues came up. And I just think that's what you're hoping Trey Lance is. That is what you're hoping he gets to eventually. And they're both big ifs, just based on one reaching his potential and one actually playing football again. Right. So it's 2 big ifs. So if you just want to cancel those 2 out, and then you're getting 105 and 204 for Nick Chubb, which is, I think, a trade that all of us would probably do for Nick Chubb, who's getting to that age where you want to sell off your running backs, and he's 26, and you can get a top 5 pick and a second. I think that's a good trade.
Yeah, so ultimately that's the trade that I offered and got rejected, which fair enough. I think if I was in the other person's shoes, it'd be difficult for me to feel either way about it. I think I might accept it if I was in the other person's shoes, getting Trey Lance and Nick Chubb. If I have no incentive to tank, if I'm just in a rebuilding phase, because you get that nice young quarterback who, while he does have question marks about him, like at least I know he's playing, or he should be playing.
I also think a big aspect to that is pick 105 this year is not pick 105 last year, and it's not pick 105 next year or even in 2024. This is going to be one of the weaker draft classes that we've seen and going to see for a little bit here. So I think just given that pick, it's not valued the same as it has been in the past.
I don't think pick 105 is like. I think a lot of people are making pick 105 out to be worse than it will be. But in terms of like, yeah, you're comparing. That was probably Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts last year, who are
right, which you're not getting
top tier guys.
You're getting both guys were generational prospects. You're not getting a generate. I don't think there is a generational prospect in this draft, let alone at pick 105.
Yeah, at 105, you're probably looking at like a Isaiah Spiller, Treylon Burks. Those might not even make it there. It might be a Drake London Spiller. Or a Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Or whatever quarterback you want to take, pretty much.
Which I don't have any faith in those quarterbacks. So
yes, Frank. See, I think the thing is where I disagree with you, JT, is that you were saying that you would take the Lance Chubb side if you were a rebuilder. I think I would only take that side if I was a contender, because like Jake was saying, 105 and 204, well, I actually don't think that's a bad deal for Chubb. I think it's just a little bit rich for a guy who is going to start to go through the slander, right? He's like,
he's already there. He's going through the slander already.
That's the old allegations.
So you're just going to buy an asset okay, if I'm a contender and I love Nick Chubb, you're probably not going to find another Nick Chubb truther like me. So I'm fine with buying him. I think that he's going to be more. He's not going to just wither away like some might expect him to. I think he has a decent shelf life left. But at the same time, like if I'm a rebuilder, all I care about is value. I don't care about getting a good deal right now for a decent running back who's going to depreciate for fantasy points. I don't give a fuck about that. So like, okay, if I'm a contender, I need the running back. Okay, yeah, I'll pay up for Nick Chubb. It's not going to be the best deal, but I'm going to be able to win some damn games this year. Mm-hmm. That's the only way I do it.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. All right, I think we spent.
Also, if you're a contender, you're giving away Deshaun Watson for Trey Lance, which is probably the less, if you have to worry about less, because Jimmy G, the report came out today that they're looking for trade partners for Jimmy G. So you're expecting Trey Lance to start and be productive as he was the third overall pick of the NFL draft.
Well, if you're spending the third overall pick on him, he better be starting in his second season. Otherwise, what are you doing? You're a team that was just at the Super Bowl. That third overall pick could have brought you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I think there's the argument for Watson too, that Watson could just come back and be Watson again. Well, so
that's the question though, right? Like, say he settles. Does the NFL still give him punishment? Is he in trouble for something? Does he still have his issues with Houston? Like, what if Houston doesn't get a coach he wants? What if teams don't want to trade for him now? There's still so many different things with Deshaun Watson that I don't know. I don't feel confident about a lot of them. I would not feel confident about Deshaun Watson starting week 1 of this upcoming season. Now, if we're talking 2 seasons from now, I'd feel pretty confident he should be back in the 2023 starting season, September 2023.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I just don't know the scenario, because for as many of that, you can also say, well, what if he just comes back, lol? We've already seen what he can do.
Yeah.
He's only 26.
Yeah. That's the thing. His whole age thing. His age thing, it's like, all right, he's 26. Like, he's got 10 years at least. Like, he could be an efficient quarterback. All right. So let's move on. Jake, any kind of trades you're thinking about doing?
Yeah. I was actually offered a trade by Parker, who's in the chat as well. The certified trade addict himself. But yeah, he offered me 204 for Jerry Jeudy straight up. And I understand we can't play this game. We talked about it last offseason, and you get into it this offseason, especially with the Broncos of, well, they're going to get a quarterback. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers. Like, obviously, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. They just, signed Nathaniel Hackett to be their head coach. He's going to bring in Rodgers right from Green Bay. And I think when you play, like, obviously, I think 204 is a little low for Jeudy, regardless of who's playing quarterback here. So that's the first part of this. But in general, I think it's just something to try to stay away from when you're trying to evaluate assets going into the offseason of like, well, they're going to bring in this guy or they're going to cut this guy. Like, nothing's for certain in the NFL. And if you get into these what if scenarios, you're going to end up making a bad trade, whether you overvalue someone that ends up being just exactly what he was this year when you were expecting an improvement, or if you undervalue a guy expecting a decline. So I just think the Broncos are a prime example of this year, just because of all of the rumors of Aaron Rodgers going to Denver.
It's what is it? I had a thought the other day, not the other day, earlier today, because I don't know how legit this report was, but if Adams and Rodgers both team up in Denver, it's gonna be hilarious to see like the emotional roller coaster of like Sutton and Jeudy managers for like 10 minutes after Rodgers signs, like celebrating. Then like right after that, you see like Adams sign there also. I mean, yeah, no, with Broncos players, it's kind of tough because it's like impossible to judge because you have no idea what it is. Like if Rodgers ends up going there, Judy's value shoots up to what? Maybe like equivalent to like 108, 109. But it's like, so right now it's kind of tough. Are you just holding out until you see free agency come along, or like what would be the offer that made you like not wait until then? You'll just be like, fuck it, I'd accept now.
I think Jeudy is probably worth a late first this year, somewhere in the 110 to 112 range. As of right now, not expecting anything at the quarterback, expecting Teddy Bridgewater to be there again. If Rodgers comes back, does come there, I think his value shoots up, and I think everyone will probably overhype him and probably expect him to turn into an all-pro caliber receiver.
He might be a sneaky sell at that point.
So what like on top of 204 then though? Because if you're saying 110 to 112, I mean 204 is not terribly far away. So one on top of 204 gets it done for Jeudy.
Another second, probably. Honestly, I just don't. I don't think a third moves the needle on that trade. I think if you're just trying to, Jeudy's still so young and has such high draft capital in him, and we saw what he could do at Alabama in that offense. Obviously it's probably just being a truther or whatever you want to call it, but I think Jeudy does have a potential. He's played with no one at quarterback besides Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. You get a guy that could actually throw the ball down the field. I think it's really gonna boost his value. I think it's gonna boost all their values when we're talking about Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant. I even think it helps Javonte Williams moving forward. It'll get people out of the box, allow him to make some more deep rushes going on. I don't know. I think 2 seconds for Jeudy is pretty fair. If not, I like 110 to 112 straight up.
I'm interested where David Bell's currently going because he's my receiver 4. I think he's consensus receiver 4. I'd be interested to see where he's currently going in Superflex mock drafts.
He's probably going around there, and that's why I say that. If I can get one of those top 4 or 5 receivers, I think it's worth it for Jeudy and just kind of re-roll the dice on a young wide receiver.
I think any pick after David Bell, I would trade away for Jeudy or Sutton. And then if I'm the person who has Jeudy or Sutton, I wouldn't trade unless I was getting the likes of the David Bell.
Who's on the board come draft night in your leagues? Because I think their variability is so high right now that it's very hard to put a accurate price.
Dude, they're all in the Mixon paradox. Everyone wants the first. No one wants to give the first. They're all in the
Look, if I had that late first and I didn't think David Bell would be available there, I'd trade the late first for Cortland Sutton. I do it, but I just don't have the first to give up for that, so I can't.
Yeah, I have David Bell projected as like a mid to late first round pick in dynasty drafts. So,
Yeah.
oh, there goes Mr. Hankman. I don't see it.
Oh, I see him on my
I
screen.
still have him.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
I'd like to think that Aaron Rodgers, if he's in like a dynasty league, like before announcing his decision to sign, like just trades for all the Broncos ahead of hand at like the cheaper price, and like announces he's signing to Denver.
That's how the trade gets leaked. Just Aaron
Just
Rodgers
tonks all of
trades.
them, resells all of them for first.
All right, I don't know why Jake, can you speak real quick? Yeah, Jake, can you just leave and join back? Oh wait, never mind. You're back. You're good. You're good. All right, I'm gonna get into my trade that I actually did right before the episode. We can do it quick because this is something I was saying to do like a couple episodes ago. Dude, Mike Evans. Got rid of Mike Evans. I was saying Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, I would sell for a first round pick right now. They're the other than Devontae Adams, the highest valued like receivers from that draft class or around there. I think it was like what, 2012? Somewhere around there, right?
I think it was 2013, but yeah.
But yeah, I was saying if I can move Mike Evans or Keenan Allen for a first round pick in 23 or 24, I'm doing it. Basically, no hesitation. I actually didn't think it was going to be able to get done because I had offered him out in all of my leagues, basically. But I finally got a bite today, which is ironic because Brady retired today.
I was about to say
it's like,
that.
maybe that's what it took to spark the interest in Mike Evans. But I was able to trade Mike Evans for not just a 2023 first, but 210 in swap for a third next year as well. I just won the championship in this league, so I'm assuming that third should be relatively late. I'm ecstatic with the deal. I accepted it instantly. You guys all agree with me there?
Yeah, I think you got such an unrealistic offer to what is probably the case at this point.
Especially right after the Brady retirement. That's like pretty
You couldn't have got that trade when Brady was still playing. It doesn't make that. I'm still baffled by the offer.
Yeah, but someone brought up a good point in that everyone's. I think it was JT was saying everyone is saying to buy low because if you remember, this is the same thing happening with Allen Robinson. Everyone's saying, "Oh, I would buy low on Allen Robinson." Well, what if buying low to someone means just acquiring them? I mean, Mike Evans, the thing is, you can talk yourself to Mike Evans. If you ask anyone on the Dynasty sub their opinion of Mike Evans, guess what the first word they're going to say is? Underrated. That's how you know. Like, it's the same thing happened with Allen Robinson last year. Oh, well, he got 1,000-yard seasons with shit-stained McGee 1, 2, and 3 as his quarterbacks. He's underrated. He has to be good. Yeah. Question here. You guys want to answer it?
Sure, let me see it.
What's the question?
12-team Superflex Dynasty, 0.5 PPR. Send C-Mac, I guess that's Christian McCaffrey, right?
Yeah.
For James Conner, Kareem Hunt, 23 first late, and a 24 first. Thoughts?
Yes.
So 2 first, Conner and Hunt for CMC?
Yes.
I do that.
I think this is the... Oh, wait, no, it's Superflex.
Two first, Connor.
They're
and
both
Hunt
late
for
first, right?
Well, we don't know. 2024 could be whatever.
2024 could be anything. Yeah, that's fair.
Is your team good? Are you a contender? I think I might take that anyway.
I think I'd take it anyway. But
I don't think there's any. There's no other 20. How old CMC? 25, 26.
There's no other 25-year-old running back you wouldn't immediately smash the accept button.
Two firsts for an aging running back plus 2 like all right. I mean it's kind of James Hunt.
2 running back threes realistically.
Yeah, they're solid flex plays. Yeah, I'm taking that because right now we're assuming that's a 7 to 12. Well, with CMC that'll probably should help you if he's healthy, which I think he will actually be this year. That probably will be a late 2023 first, but this 2023 first, it's looking really good regardless of where it is in the first round. And then you're getting that 2024 first on top of it, which Frank's going out of his way to already start acquiring right now. I'm doing it, and I like CMC. But
yeah, I think the thing that's just more than he should be going for right now.
Correct.
It feels like.
All right. Well, I think that was an easy. We're all in agreement. There's
I
Yeah.
love McCaffrey though. Like I actually don't think that's a bad price to acquire McCaffrey at.
I ultimately say yeah, but I didn't think it was like a smash yes if you're trying to like compete the next season, because like what depends like if you're retooling or something, yeah, you take that. But if you're trying to compete, like those picks, yeah, that help you in the future. But if you feel like you have like a win now roster, I could understand the hesitancy, but I think that's good value for McCaffrey.
He said he is a contender. He's got Dak, Zach Wilson at quarterback, Dobbins, Gordon, Kareem Hunt, and James Conner are his running back twos. Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Higgins, and Andrews at tight end. He's got 106, 23 firsts, 223 firsts, and 324 firsts.
Oh, interesting.
Jesus Christ.
So it seems like he's considering trading for.
Oh, so you're
CMC
trying to
in this
get
instance.
McCaffrey?
He said send McCaffrey, but I think that's what his that's
Yeah,
what
I
his
think that's
lineup
what his
would
team
be.
is.
That's what his team would be if he makes the trade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That team still looks like it's a competitive team, like certainly, and you have all the first draft.
You have all
capital
those
on top
picks.
of
You
it.
can
Yeah.
trade for another back.
Yeah, I think if you do that, you could easily pick up another running back for depth piece, and you'll be still competing, and your team will be
Trade
much
for Nick
better
Chubb.
moving forward. Yeah,
I just
trade one of those picks for Nick Chubb.
Yeah, it's just again like 2 first plus for any running back is tough for me to do. With Jonathan Taylor, I'd do it for Javonte. I'd consider even him might be tough. Like 2 first is just it's a lot for a running back, and it's an aging running back. So
Yeah, the only thing I don't really love getting James Conner and Hunt in that deal. I'd rather get like
I'd rather get like another good pick.
yeah. I mean, maybe if you can. I think
Well,
you're gonna
Hunt
find
I
it
like,
hard to
but James-
move either of them.
Hunt I like. Connor I'm kind of
Hunt, I think,
I
is
think a
going to
little
depend a lot on
like I think
what
Hunt
happens
can help
with him
a
this
contender.
offseason.
Yeah.
What happens with Hunt this offseason? If he goes to a place where he could be the lead back, I think his value is going to go up, actually. But
I think the nice thing about this trade is that you don't have to be caught holding the bag on CMC if he goes kaboom.
Yeah.
Like now is for what he is right now and how much slander he's gotten and where he's ranked, that's a good offer to get. Like that's probably more than most people would trade for Christian McCaffrey. So like you get those 2 firsts. You can always trade those kind of firsts for a David Montgomery and get an RB2 if you really need one. Would you do a 2023 first for ETN?
If you're asking if I would trade a 2023 first, I would trade ETN for a 2023 first. I wouldn't trade a 2023 first for ETN.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you might just be able to get something back if you were to do that anyway.
Yeah.
Like I think you could get ETN in a third, or I mean ETN in a second is a stretch, but I think you could get something on top of ETN. If the person's selling ETN for that, you can get a little smidge on top.
I have him in the 3rd and 20 league, and if anyone wants to send me a 2023 first, he can be yours.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, so
I've got 3 of them. I'm not sure I'm
That's
parting
true.
ways with them. I might think about it.
I don't have any first, thanks to Josh Allen, but I'm not too mad about it.
Are the only people picking in the first round me, Frank, and Lappy? Is that
I don't
like
have a first this year.
Oh, okay.
Lappy has like 6 first round picks.
Right,
Yeah,
well,
one of the
listeners
for context, one of the people in the 3rd and 20 dynasty league that we made traded for like 8 of the first round picks this year. He has picks 1 and 2, and
I
then
pick
picks
3. And then he has like 4 and 5
to 13 because he has 201 too. Like,
he's gonna have the whole draft class.
he went crazy.
All right. I think that's it for the trades that we're gonna do. We've talked about this segment before. We're gonna bring it back. We're gonna look at the Reddit recap. So we're looking at some of the top posts on Reddit, and one of the top posts was discussing Trevor Lawrence. And
buy low of the century.
You got like the clickbait headline of best buy low candidate of the decade. And this person, you Matt 100398 on Dynasty Reddit r/Dynasty FF said, I can't believe how many people seem to have given up on or deem Trevor Lawrence as a bust. When have we ever seen a QB get drafted to a terrible team and have a great or even above average rookie year? Yes, Lawrence threw a lot of picks, but the key takeaway is that those picks never kept him from continuing to throw. In a decimated offense with massive coaching issues, Lawrence's confidence never seemed to waver. With ETN as a familiar safety blanket next year, along with the presumably improved overall offense, I expect it to truly be his growth year. He might disappoint on the stat sheet once again, but the game is bound to slow down massively for Lawrence. In Superflex leagues, I legitimately think he should be valued the same as the likes of Joe Burrow. Go buy him low now.
Okay, so I never disliked Trevor Lawrence. I still liked him coming into this year, but I think that description made me lower on him, to be completely honest.
Really?
He's like, but he still threw passes. I'm like, yeah, I'd hope so. He's the starter. You're getting paid to. I mean, I think that last statement was kind of ridiculous to even put him in the same tier as like that Burrow Dak tier. I mean,
Listen,
he's still a top
Joe-
12 dynasty quarterback, but
Joe Burrow went to a horrible Cincinnati team and was very productive prior to getting his knee blown up. And then he's come back. Kyler Murray was drafted to a horrible Arizona team and was able to put up numbers. I don't really buy the whole he has such a bad team, he's not going to be able to do anything. That whole concept. If you're that good, you're going to do something regardless. And he was considered one of the best QB prospects since Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning. The list goes on and on. But like he's still at QB9. He really hasn't lost any value, which is the key takeaway that I have here is that he went, coming into the league as, the number one overall pick, the 101 in pretty much every Superflex draft, he was ranked right around that QB9, QB8 range behind all the likes of Josh Allen, Mahomes, Kyler, all those guys, behind all those guys, rightfully so. You're not going to put anyone coming in that hasn't played a snap in the NFL above those guys who are, MVP candidates every year. So the fact that you're saying he's a buy low is just tough for me because he really hasn't lost any value.
Yeah. I think if we're being honest about what Trevor Lawrence's range of outcomes can most likely be at this point, it seems it is way more likely he's going to be in the realm of the Tuas and Baker Mayfields and, maybe if we want to bump him up a little higher, like the Ryan Tannehills. Just in terms of like who he is as a quarterback, like I don't necessarily you're saying that low on him. I think all three of those guys are fine quarterbacks, but he's just not that generational talent that people thought he was. If he was, we would have seen it already.
Damn.
I disagree with that.
Dude,
the Jaguars offense, you can say like, oh, he thrived. I'm sorry, wide receiver 1 was Laquan fucking Treadwell. Let's be real.
You had Baker Mayfield break the rookie record on a team that had Hugh Jackson coaching it, which is worse than Urban Meyer.
Yeah, but Baker Mayfield is talented. Like Baker Mayfield's talent is not the problem.
Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be
you can just watch Baker Mayfield. The dude's rattled. His footwork is trash. It's terrible. This guy's twinkle toes. He doesn't know where to go. He doesn't know how to play anymore. The guy's rattled. You see TJ Watt in that Steelers game? TJ Watt's in his head. Baker Mayfield he's just a different person now. He's rattled.
If Baker Mayfield didn't play for the Browns and he played for the Minnesota Vikings, a team that you don't have any rooting interest against, how would you feel about Baker Mayfield?
Dude, Trevor Lawrence was terrible. The thing, I don't hate Baker. It's just the guy played like shit.
He was last year was not a good year for Baker Mayfield. I'm not talking about specifically last year, but I'm talking about Trevor Lawrence is way more likely to be an average quarterback who it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but the price he's at, that's not a buy low. That's a buy at about an adequate price. I agree that he's not a buy low,
but dude, he's got way more talent than besides Baker, all those other quarterbacks that you listed. Trevor Lawrence, and he's more talented than Baker too. Like I'm not saying he's not more talented than Baker, but Baker is the only guy who has the arm talent to make the same throws as Trevor Lawrence. The other guys just don't. I mean, Tannehill, not necessarily, just off platform. I don't think he's anywhere near as good.
You saw that playoff throw to AJ Brown.
Yeah, but dude, Trevor Lawrence has a fucking rocket. That dude, his deep ball is beautiful. It's I think he's going to be fine.
Wait.
The problem with Trevor Lawrence is that I think that he just was missing a little bit on those touch throws. He wants to rocket everything. He wants to, when he plays Madden, he holds down the button that he throws to his guy every time. It's just laser, laser, laser. He needs to be able to
get some touch.
Well, yeah, because sometimes he just rocket that shit and it'd be 3 yards off.
Well,
but I think with a little bit of improvement, he'll be good.
I'll say this with Trevor. Do you guys see obviously not when we say ceiling, it's well, it could happen, a realistic possibility that he enters at some point over the next maybe 2-3 years, that he enters that top tier where we consider Mahomes, Allen, Herbert.
I mean, there's always the
Tyler, those guys.
possibility.
Or do you think he's going to kind of? I mean, realistic guess, or do you think he kind of stays? I think his ideal outcome is kind of being similar to Dak, where you're still a QB1, but you're not
I just don't think it's. It looks like according to Keep Trade Cut, a pivot from Trevor Lawrence into Dak is a feasible thing that you could do. You might have to pay a little bit on top, but I'm taking Dak every time. And it's just Trevor Lawrence is fine, but I think Dak could be that more. Dak could get you into that elite tier much more easily than Trevor Lawrence. And you have to remember, this is still the Jaguars, where it looks like Byron Leftwich doesn't even want to coach for the team because
isn't it because he wants to bring his own GM and the GM there? Yeah, the Jags fans hate that GM.
They haven't brought in a head coach yet. You don't know who the coach is going to be for Trevor Lawrence. This is going to be such a formative year for the player. Where if you have 2 bad seasons in a row, well, now we're talking. You're the likes of Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones and all of them, where it's all right, well, you got to step it up, or there's nothing here for you.
I still like Lawrence. I'm still going to value him as a top 10 dynasty quarterback.
Would you trade Dak for Trevor Lawrence right now?
No, I have Dak higher than Trevor Lawrence. I'd not much rather have Dak. I'd rather have Dak, and I value him definitely higher.
What about Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'd rather have Russell Wilson.
What about Trey Lance?
I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence over Trey Lance.
Team Lance.
I still have Trevor Lawrence as the QB1 from the class last year.
Interesting. All right.
Dude, I think that people are really, really overrating some of these rookie seasons, and they're not seeing the full picture. They're just looking at some of these box scores. They saw one primetime game, and these are the narratives being brought out. I think that if you were to go at a broader lens, look at the full body work from start to finish, what they improved on, what they need, what they struggled at, what they need to improve on. I really don't think Trevor Lawrence is that far away from being a pretty damn good quarterback. He just needs to fix a couple of things, and his receivers need to help him out too.
Is he getting receivers out? I know he's well.
I mean, dude, if you're rolling up with the receivers that you had at the end of last year, then I'm sorry.
It's the Jaguars. No one's jumping out of their shoes to go play for the Jaguars either. They're gonna have to pick it up through the draft and everything, and we've seen what this team can do with the draft. I don't know. Also, a stat line of 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions is not great, Trevor Lawrence.
And not having a 7-week stretch without any kind of touchdown is also not ideal.
Not breaking the 200-yard mark in 6 of your 14 games. Not good.
There's really no excuse.
You're hating. You're hating.
I feel bad because it sounds like I'm hating hard on Trevor. I kind of am hating hard on Trevor. But I still view him as a top 12 dynasty.
I think he's.
But I'm not buying him.
It doesn't sound like it. It doesn't sound like if you as a starting quarterback.
He's just lower end 12.
I'm not saying I'd trade Trevor Lawrence for the likes of Baker Mayfield to Ryan Tannehill, but I think
he's way better than
more likely to be his outcome than it is to be a Kyler or Josh Allen.
Dude,
or Mahomes
Brian Flores is not rage quitting if Trevor Lawrence is his quarterback. All right. But he did with 2. He did with fucking 2. He rage quit.
I'm just saying that's more likely to be his outcome.
I think there was more going on in Miami than just.
If I could trade Trevor Lawrence for Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Dak Prescott, I'm doing that for all 3 of those straight up. Straight up.
I think I agree with JT. With that, not the Baker Tua thing, because I think he's going to be better than Baker and Tua.
Trey Lance did more and a half against the Seattle Seahawks than Trevor Lawrence did the whole season. I have not seen anything from Trevor Lawrence to make me think, oh, he's going to be.
Trevor
very good
Lawrence's
dynasty.
most recent game, dude. He was lights out against. The
Oh, what
Colts.
happened
He
the game
was
before that?
lights
What
out.
happened the game before that?
Lights out against.
Talk to
the
me.
good
Talk to me.
defense.
Oh, but what defense did he play the week before? What happened the week before that, Frank?
Dude, y'all are hating.
1 week
Y'all
before.
are hating.
1 week before they lost by like 50 points to the Patriots.
That was brutal. That was brutal.
Dude,
He was
Trevor
seeing
Lawrence is gonna
ghosts.
be good. Y'all are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Carson Wentz just makes
Nope,
the
you're
other
drinking the
quarterback
Kool-Aid. We're drinking the reality juice, Frank. We're on the
better.
reality juice.
Reality juice.
He's fine. He's not great.
Let's
That's
do
my
a
thing.
pod bet. What do we want the pod bet to
Okay.
be? Where he's
All right,
ranked?
wait.
a year
Let's
from
write
now?
this down.
Let's do
write it down
Trey
somewhere.
Lance versus Trevor.
Okay,
No, let's just do straight up. Is he higher or lower than quarterback 9 next year?
lower. That's an easy lower.
Lower.
Let me see
I
this.
I don't even know.
I agree.
I don't even know.
I don't even know if Frank.
believes
I mean, because
he'll be
it's not
there.
Frank's argument. Frank is saying that he's
QB9.
dynasty QB9.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. He's got.
No,
I
well,
would say
he-
lower
But
as well.
being dynasty QB9 doesn't mean you necessarily have to be ninth next year.
Well, we're
Yeah,
talking.
I'll take the under on 9, including 9. I'm taking the under.
Well, was under me.
I get top 9. I get top 9 spots. He's in the top
Fine.
9.
Fine, he's gonna
Okay.
go down. He's gonna go down. Next question.
Yeah. All right.
All right, well, you give me top
Well,
10 then.
wait,
I'm gonna
wait.
try. If it's guaranteed, he's going to give me top 10 then. Give me top 10. If
We
you
don't.
feel confident.
Fine.
What's the
Fine.
bet though? What are we making the bet? We need terms of engagement here. Someone come up with something quick. What do you have to do?
Shave Loomis's head.
This is the one at stake. I don't know. 3 podcast points.
Podcast.
All right. I'm gonna have.
What's the currency value of a podcast point?
What's the price of an award? Can we just get an award? The other person has to gift the other person a trophy.
two
like a
two
trophy.
eggs on the head to the following draft
Oh
stream.
my god, not the eggs again. All right, look at this. A custom trophy is pretty cheap. The loser
let's
has to
move
buy the
on.
winner.
We'll
the
decide the
Trevor Lawrence
terms
custom.
later.
We'll figure it out later.
Okay. I can't believe you, Frank.
I
you
get
got-
top 10. I get top 10.
Wait, top
Are
10?
you
I thought top 1 through 9.
The
Are we
fact
doing
that
top
you're
10
even,
or top 9?
the fact that you're even wanting the top 10 though makes me say like Trevor Lawrence is not the best buy of the decade. Because
No, he's
you're-
not. He's not the
you're-
best buy of the
yeah.
decade.
We'll see,
but I
we'll
get
see,
top
we'll-
10.
We'll see if Trevor Lawrence can match the likes of Jalen Hurts with the top 10.
All right. Next post in the Reddit, we got Gabriel Davis versus Darnell Mooney. We're revisiting the debate, and let's see what they had to say on the.
Yeah, the Mooney truthers thought they had a comfortable
Yeah.
lead.
So you/pick3789 in r/dynasty fantasy football said this was a hot debate this past offseason. There were tons of posts debating which one people would rather have going forward. Mooney followed up his solid rookie showing with 81 for 1,055 on 140 targets with pretty subpar QB play. I disagree. All year. Davis followed up his rookie campaign with a pretty disappointing sophomore season by basically repeating his rookie output. 35 catches for 549 yards on 63 targets, even with one of the best QBs throwing to him. Before the divisional playoff game, I think pretty much everyone would have agreed Mooney was the winner of this debate, but there are a large number of Gabe Davis breakout posts anointing him as the next great thing. Does the 200-yard, 4-touchdown game change your opinion of Mooney versus Davis, or is this just an isolated playoff performance that doesn't mean much long-term and it's just a bunch of recency bias?
Complete recency bias.
It's recency bias.
It's- one dude had 140 targets and 1,000 yards. What are we arguing here? The other had 500 on 35 catches. What are we talking about?
And by the
Yeah,
way,
that's-
and that was with subpar QB.
Yeah,
I
they
like
were-
Justin Fields, but he had a couple good games and he had some really rough ones.
Chicago was in 30th in passing yards per game at 188.6, 0.6 above the New York Giants at 188.
Yeah. Well, I didn't count in the Andy Dalton.
Yeah, that was like
cool guy,
half
but
the it's like I just didn't count QB play for half the season.
well,
and then,
dude,
like, half of
when
Justin
I see
Fields' game.
subpar quarterback play, I gotta go and defend my guy Justin Fields.
He
One
was like,
fine.
podcast point is equal to one Schrute buck. That's what
But
we
yeah,
got in the
I
comments.
mean, does this make if this is a debate right now, does that mean Gabriel Davis is a sell? Real quick.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
He's been
Frank
a,
and I-
you
these
missed it.
ridiculous prices that people are somehow. I saw some dude got him for 105. It's like, dude, I'm sorry. Do you have to ask
Wait.
if that's just a clear overpay?
Some dude
Yeah.
got who for 105?
Some guy traded Gabe Davis away for 105.
I don't
Let
know.
me see
Superflex?
what Gabe Davis's price is.
How are you even getting a
What?
first round pick? Is my question.
I
let
would think
alone
like collusion
105.
if I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. That trade would get vetoed in most leagues.
The thing is, I don't think that Gabriel Davis is at the value that he's at on Keep Trade Cut. Apparently, he's worth as much as Pat Fryermuth and Hunter Renfrow. Like, I'd much rather have those players.
Yeah, I'll trade him
Dallas
for the
Goddard
Ruth.
as well. Like, I just don't think that you're gonna get that price. I really don't. I think that you're gonna get more of like a 206 or a 207. That like, okay, some leagues you could probably get a little more, but who really like how many leagues do you get more than 205 for Gabe Davis? No,
I-
205, 206.
I take most second for Gabe Davis. I'd rather just have the second.
I also just think Buffalo's gonna add a receiver.
Should we have another hour-long Gabe Davis debate?
I was
No,
debating.
please no,
Oh
please
my
no,
God.
not again.
But the point of this discussion is who you want more, who's better, Darnell Mooney or Gabriel Davis, and from
We all
the
team
tone
Mooney.
of
Dude,
everyone
Jake
here,
summed it up
Darnell Mooney.
perfectly. We're talking about a guy like if you count his playoff stats, what has he got? 50 catches?
Not even. He had 35 catches. We had
Yeah.
10 for the two
So we had,
games.
like 44.
Not even one game.
Targets
Two
are
games.
king. Give me the guy that clearly is getting the ball more.
He had more
But
than
Justin
double.
Fields trusts the most.
He had more than double the amount of Gabe Davis targets.
Yeah.
You chase those kind of targets.
Yeah, I think it's.
Is
I don't
Mooney
think
worth a
Gabe
late
Davis
first now?
is bad. It's just
No.
I'm not trading
Not
the late
quite.
first from.
Not
Yeah,
quite, but
it is.
early
It is
second.
funny that we're talking like someone was able to get 105 for Gabe Davis. I wouldn't even give up a first at all for Darnell Mooney.
And and we're way higher on Mooney than Davis.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wouldn't
Crazy
trade
world.
205 for Davis.
No, I wouldn't. Well,
the
I
thing
give
is,
that up
it's
in
just like, do we
heartbeat,
even
though,
need to say that Gabe Davis is one of those? There's one every week or two where they're just a clear sell. Their
Marquez
value just-
Callaway.
it's clear recency bias jump. Like whenever someone goes and has one of those crazy
Travis
performances,
Fulgham.
even
I think-
there'll be mid-tier players, there'll be top-tier players. It happens all the time. You have to sell.
What I've been
if you
seeing
can.
this postseason, like the postseason is low-key like kind of like the best time to sell some hyped up guys because everyone is watching like the same game. So if someone's having like an insane postseason, I feel like it's a sneaky good time to sell them.
Yeah, I think T. Higgins has boomed in value recently.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah,
I think he's up to top 10 on receivers right now.
which sure AJ Brown helped
I'm
his
not.
stock
Yeah,
in
I'm
this
not
game.
too far off from T. Higgins.
Let's
Like,
get into
I
this
think I have
next
him.
segment because this is actually an
T.
interesting
Higgins,
one.
T. Higgins is exactly at wide receiver 10, just for
Yeah.
the record.
All right. Who? The last one. For the recap. U/flashy _ discussion _ 40 said best running back to buy now. What top 20 to 15 running back would you feel most comfortable giving 2 first and maybe a little more / less for right now? This is besides the obvious like Taylor / Devontae and more geared towards aging running backs like Cook, Eckler, Kamara, and Zeke. Well, to be honest, like I
I'm not
just said
giving
earlier,
2 first-round picks for any of them.
I don't want to give 2 first for any of these
Yeah.
guys.
I'd
I'd
give a
rather just
first and
use
a
those
smaller
first to
piece.
draft running backs at that point.
Absolutely.
So, but all right, but I think what's more interesting is which of these running backs is the best one to buy.
The veteran running back. Honestly, you know who I kind of feel the safest about out of those like not like old but kind of older ones. And I guess it depends on what his price ends up being because he's ahead on Keep Trade Cut, but like I'd be surprised if he's like that much more than like a Kamara or something. But Austin Eckler is someone who like
Interesting.
I'd feel because I know on Keep Trade Cut right now he's ahead of Kamara, but I feel like in most leagues their prices are insane or like pretty much the same. If not, like I feel like Kamara would be a little bit more expensive, but I guess maybe because of the Saints' uncertainty, people are low on him. Which in that case, maybe my answer is Kamara. But Austin Eckler's just he's like a lock for 20 plus. Like he almost kind of has that like McCaffrey effect to like a slighter extent when it's like when he's healthy, he's a lock for having a good game.
Yes, but still, I know he kind of came into the league late because he was like an undrafted player, didn't get many snaps early in his career behind
And
Melvin
yeah, I was gonna
Gordon.
say he's not as
But-
worn down as like a lot of running backs are.
Right, but he's still 26, and at that point, it doesn't matter how many touches you got. Your body starts to break down, and your body starts to not be what it was. And to give 2 first-round picks, let alone even like one and like a quality player on your team, that's a high price. Like obviously, if you're contending, well worth it. But if you're even middle of the road to tanking team, obviously you're never going to touch that price.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm necessarily foul saying like the 2 first, but I definitely give a first and a really good asset. I was more just saying like who's my favorite buy out of like those like guys in that tier, like the running backs that are like 26, 27 years old.
Okay, I'm going to give you a couple. Wait, 26, 27 years old they have to be?
Well, I don't know because what were the names that he listed? Like,
Well, the one
I mean, I think it's
Kamara.
just best running back buy in general.
Best running back buy? Okay, I've got a couple
It's-
that I like.
It's
And you-
Saquon Barkley. If it's not Saquon Barkley,
I-
you're wrong.
Alvin
So-
Kamara
No,
is
I've won
just
my mind.
criminally underpriced. I mean,
He's
I think that
RB10.
Alvin Kamara is a good bit over Austin Eckler, and it's the other way around right now. Apparently on Keep Trade Cut, I think.
yeah, I was
that's just
confused by that
crazy.
because I feel like in most leagues Kamara's gonna kind of take the bigger. I don't know.
I think
Maybe I'm
Alvin
wrong.
Kamara is like just fucking ridiculous. You watch this guy play, and he's absurd. To me, okay, yeah, there's some uncertainty because a guy like Sean Payton leaves, which hurts and whatnot. But dude, Alvin Kamara is great. There's a reason why, come draft times, everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he could be the next Alvin Kamara." It's because Alvin Kamara happens to be pretty damn good. He's 100% should be in the top 10. The fact that he's not, I bought Alvin Kamara in our home league. A couple other ones. Saquon, I think, is decent. I just think that Saquon, there is a decent amount of risk. But yeah, if you could get him for this Keep Trade Cut price at RB13, fine. You're gonna have no qualms from me. David Montgomery, I think, is really interesting.
Screaming
it's
buy,
funny-
screaming buy on David Montgomery. Book it now. David Montgomery is
Booking
this
it.
year's Joe Mixon. Book it.
Yeah, the thing is,
That
there's
actually
just a
wouldn't
lot
shock
of
me.
things that you like. The volume seems to be there. He's gotten a lot of work, especially late in the season in the passing game. And a lot of that was with a guy like Justin Fields, who seems to only want to check it down to David Montgomery. So, like, maybe there's just a connection there. I don't know what it is, but it helps him. And not only that, like, dude, in the beginning of the season before he was hurt, he looked phenomenal. Like one of the most improved backs in the league. And I used to firmly be in the Josh Jacobs over David Montgomery clan. But dude, I think David Montgomery, like I traded for him and I wasn't a huge fan of David Montgomery in the beginning of the season. I just kind of needed a running back. And that just led me to watch a couple more Bear games than I usually would. And I was really pleasantly surprised with the player that I ended up buying for, it was something like a first round pick, somewhere around there. So I just think, like Jake is saying, he has upside. He's only 24. I didn't love David Montgomery as a prospect, but I think he's just improved a lot, which is not priced in. And then the last one, which people have talked about, and I haven't personally bought this player like the other two, but it's someone you have to mention because I think there's just so much upside. It's Travis Etienne.
Oh no!
I know. I'm not the biggest
doing
Etienne guy.
You were doing so well, Frank.
No, Frank.
You were doing so well.
Well, look, I don't think it's a bad
Frank, I'm
play,
with you, buddy.
but
But
I think
dude, just look at just hear me out here real quick.
all right, I'll hear you. I'll hear
First
you.
round pick, young. So he has a ton of upside. Right now he's RB 17. Like if he has a 100-yard game week 1, he probably
jumps.
shoots
You
up
could
to
sell
top
him
10,
right after.
knowing the community. First round draft capital. He has the second highest forced missed tackle rate of any of the running backs I tracked, and a running back class that, might I remind you, has 2 of the top 3 ranked running backs right now. With another
Which I think
guy,
they're both ranked high.
with another guy like what's his name? The Jets dude.
Michael Carter.
Michael Carter also ranked pretty high. Who's the other dude that was around Travis Etienne for forced missed tackles? So like the tape in general, it wasn't perfect. I wasn't the biggest fan of Etienne's tape, but it's good. There's a lot. His quickness is really, really nice. He's a good receiver. Like there's a lot of boxes that this guy checks. And just because he's on the Jaguars and had that Liz Frank injury, I think that we're talking about a guy that has top 10 upside easily that you could pick up for a single first round pick.
Well, Frank, I think it's time to drop the facade. Just move all the Steelers stuff out of the way and put all your Jacksonville Jaguars gear up and, do it all. Because you're the Jags guy now. You're the Jags guy on the pod.
I'm the Jags guy.
I actually am an ETN believer.
Oh, my God. Frank, that should say something. Lounis isn't.
I don't know.
See, the thing is, though, I haven't traded
feel
for ETN, though. So I'm not that big of a fan, but you have to mention it, that there's so much upside.
I think the guy...
Because, I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting, like, PTSD from, like, getting so low on Akers after his injury. But, like, what if, like, Akers did,
very different injury, but all right.
No, but I just mean, like, what if ETN just comes out week 1 and, like, he looks great? Like, he looks healthy. He has, like, a 90-yard game, total yards, and a touchdown. That entire week, you're going to be able to sell for a way higher price than what you got him for.
Right, and I would still sell.
So we have in chat, someone said ETN equals clone of DeAndre Swift. And Swift
that's just not true, but all right.
That's not the guy that you want to comp him to if you're going to make me believe in him.
That's true. Frank's a Swift hater. I just think if ETN was, he would have. I've beat this horse to death, but ETN would have gone out the prior year. He would have gone declared for the draft his junior year. But I think we're all overlooking someone though. I think my real answer, while Saquon Barkley's maybe one that he's a weird one. Saquon's someone that I'm going back and forth, but he's the only other one I'd consider. I think the real guy you gotta look at is Derrick Henry.
Why?
Well, according to Keep Trade Cut, his value is really high. But from what we've seen, we tried trading Derrick Henry in our orphan league where we had him, and there was no point in us having Derrick Henry. And like what Keep Trade Cut says Derrick Henry is worth is not actually what Derrick Henry is worth. If you could give up a late first for Derrick Henry and just ride him till the wheels fall off, I think you'll feel fine about that every single day.
He's even older than all the other guys we're talking about.
But he's Derrick Henry. He's not these other guys. He's not.
He's gonna be 29.
Okay, let me throw
Adrian Peterson played till he was like 36.
Let me throw a name at you.
Okay.
Actually, two. I know one's going to get shot down, but there actually is a good consideration to buy low here, and that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Jack McKinnon's outplaying him.
Yeah, I listen, I'm not the biggest Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. I don't have a share of him. I didn't hate him coming out of the draft, but I just liked other guys more. But the fact of the matter is that anyone that has Edwards-Helaire right now is just trying to get rid of him, it seems like. So if you're going to talk about a buy low, the guy's 22 years old. He looked all right in the playoffs. Like, he didn't look amazing, but he looked all right. Any consideration? I mean, we're talking about a mid-second round pick potentially, right?
I mean, if you can get him for a mid-second,
you can get him for a mid-second,
there's no downside to doing something like that. There's only upside because you're not going to find a better player at 206 than Edwards-Helaire. So
what about like
if you're getting him for something like, sure, even then
I'll trade 204.
Even then, you're still probably missing out on that group of guys that could have been a first-round rookie draft pick, and you're now into those guys that were firmly second-round picks. And I just think Edwards-Helaire was a top 3 dynasty pick when he came out. Yeah. So I understand he's had 2 very average seasons, and he's starting to get outplayed by the likes of Jerick McKinnon and Darrell Williams and Gore, whatever his first name is, not Frank Gore, I think. Yeah. So it just raises some questions, and I think his draft stock initially was inflated just because he was drafted to the Chiefs, and everyone thought he's gonna be the next Kareem Hunt. I mean, that's just a very unrealistic expectation.
Here's the thing, Jake. He either is going to need a change in situation or a change in usage, and I don't see Andy Reid and this coaching staff doing anything. It doesn't seem like Eric Bieniemy is leaving. So from that perspective, I don't think we're getting a different usage from CEH. And then I also don't see him moving anywhere else. And like, is his value really going to go up if he moves anywhere else? Like, everyone's going to be skeptical at first.
part of his
maybe he ends
value
up
is
panning
being
out
on the
somewhere else.
Chiefs.
Yeah, maybe he ends up panning out somewhere else. But to me, I think it's kind of just a lost cause. Like he's gonna give you some all right games, but he's just not what people thought he was. And to be he's still valued, I think, on keep trade cut as a mid to late first, right?
No, he's firmly below a first now.
Is he really?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's interesting.
Okay, one last thing.
think go for it.
And this is a guy that I also, because I have him on one of my dynasty teams, and I was trying to think about what to do with him, and if I wanted to trade him away. But the more I look into it, the more I want to keep him, and the more I think that he might even be a buy. And it's going to be a little crazy, but Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is a guy that has played really well at the end of the year, and there's the obvious risk, and it's priced into a certain extent of the Bills. The running game was inconsistent for large parts of the year. So they're going to go in and draft a running back, and they're going to spend good draft capital on a running back. Well, if that doesn't happen and they just take a guy in like the 5th or 6th round or something, or pick up like a meddling Malcolm Brown-esque free agent, right? Devin Singletary could be a really solid little buy for a non-quality 2nd round pick that can be a decent RB2. I mean, he was at the end of the season, and I just feel like he's a guy that not a lot of people are just kind of brushing off some good performances because they think the jury's out on him.
I'm not gonna lie. When at first you were like describing the running back, you were like, you have him in one league. At first you were trying to sell, but now you think you should keep him with all the uncertainty. I completely thought you were talking about Elijah Mitchell.
I think Elijah Mitchell's
He's
more of a sell.
I just think with
buy.
Devin Singletary, it is priced in, but like he could get absolutely nuked if the likes of obviously if they draft one. But even
they
if
draft one, he's completely nuked.
Even if they go out and get James Conner, who was only on a 1-year deal with Arizona, like now you have Josh Allen and James Conner running in the red zone. Like
even if they go out and
yards,
get a Kareem Hunt, someone like
Kareem
that,
Hunt, Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette. There's a bunch of guys.
The thing that he does to kind of back Frank up a little bit, the thing that is going in his favor is while Dable did leave, right, and that wasn't a worry, they promoted their offensive coordinator in-house. So it's someone that's still familiar with Devin Singletary. It's someone that knows what
coaching staff is attached to him, right? Like
So it could help. I don't know. I think we should move on to our last segment because we could be going a little long, and that is prospects. So we're breaking down.
Do we want to answer any fan questions real quick? We've been getting some.
Yeah, sure.
Any viewer questions? What would you need to add on to Watson to get Herbert?
Deshaun Watson.
A lot.
Probably I own Herbert a lot. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with Herbert. I wouldn't want to deal with Watson setting.
To quantify it, probably 2 first. Next question.
What would you trade for Watson? How about in picks this year? What 1st round pick would you go and trade for Watson?
Straight up.
Yeah. Are you doing 101?
I think I might give up 101.
I'd give up 101 for Watson.
I think I'd do like 103.
So who are you not trading him for? Basically?
I think I'd want Breece Hall, and I think I'd want the shot at either QB1 or Garrett Wilson.
Okay, that's fair.
I can kind of see Breece Hall. I'm taking Watson over Wilson and Matt Corral.
But dude, I don't know, dude. I don't know what's gonna. Watson's weird. I don't like valuing Watson. I just kind of stay.
It's impossible to
trade a few massages for Watson.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Watson compared to these guys is we know. Damn, Frank. every time Watson comes up.
That wasn't me. That was chat. Come on.
101 for Watson. I think I'd consider doing. It's just the thing of we know Watson's good. We don't know any of these guys are like what they'll actually be in the NFL, and it's just one if first the other if. And
I think I would take Breece Hall, and that's it. I think I'm
Breece Hall's the only one I would consider, but everyone else,
I think I'm at 102.
And Clyde Edwards-Helaire got traded for 2.22 seconds. CEH got traded with 2.22 seconds for Javonte. Did that happen a while ago though? Or did that happen
I was
recently?
gonna say that is
Yeah, that
insane
had to
robbery.
be. in-
Because if that was recently, one of your dynasty pals might need some help. All right, now let's move on.
All right. Well, speaking of some of these prospects, we're going to look into Garrett Wilson and Drake London. I think we'll kick it off with Garrett Wilson, Ohio State wide receiver. Had a very good season, I'd say, this year with CJ Stroud. Had a very good prior season. I'm pulling up his stats as I'm vamping here, but
Wide receiver
I,
one.
I think that's where we're all going to disagree is what wide receiver is he in this class? I think we all have him at least in our top 4. I think Jake is probably going to be the lowest on him. And if I were to guess, I'd say Frank's maybe Lounis is highest on him. And then I just probably fall somewhere in between.
Yeah, so I passed out to watch a little bit of Garrett Wilson tape before this episode. And I watched about like 20 minutes, and then I was just like, yeah, I'm just sold. Garrett Wilson to me is the wide receiver one in this class.
Let's go.
I think he's just everything that you want in a modern receiver, and you can clearly see the parallels to an elite receiver like a Justin Jefferson. I find it hard to poke a hole in his overall profile. Like, I really don't think that Garrett Wilson does anything that I don't really like. He checks all of the boxes. I think he could be a little bit bigger. That might be a little bit of a concern, but I don't really like 6 foot 180, 188, 190. I think that's fine. Young declare, linear trajectory. He averaged 96 yards a game in a really crowded offense. I mean, we're talking about an NFL level receiving core. I think that receiving core, just real quick, is literally better than half of the NFL teams right now. I'm just going to say that.
I think you're going to look back on this Ohio State receiving core similarly to how we look back on the Alabama receiving core that had Ruggs, Judy, Devontae.
This
Smith,
receiving core is significantly better.
Oh, stop it!
Well, you want to know what's interesting is if you look it up
What
by
have we
like
seen
market
from-
share, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure Garrett Wilson had a higher market share of this Ohio State offense than Justin Jefferson did of that LSU offense with Joe Burrow. I don't quote me on that necessarily. It's probably pretty damn similar. I don't know. To me, Garrett Wilson, you like here. Let me show a play really quickly of Garrett Wilson. Never mind. I don't have to. It's just you can use him in every role. Like, I think he can line up on the outside. He can line up in the slot. You can line him up to do option routes. You can do everything with Garrett Wilson. To me, after watching him, after looking at his profile, I think he's a top 10 NFL draft pick, and I think he's my wide receiver one. He's the only tier 1 wide receiver I have this year. And you guys are saying there's no like generational level prospect. I don't necessarily think that Garrett Wilson is like generational, but I think he's
not
pretty
Jamar Chase.
damn good wide receiver prospect. Like I think he's really good and can easily profile one of the top receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's
gonna be a top 10 dynasty wide receiver really fast.
Right now, Garrett
Really
Wilson
bad.
and Breece Hall are in a tough debate for my 101 in this class.
Oh wow. I have him as my, I believe, wide receiver 3. It's a toss up between him and the guy we're about to speak on soon.
So who do you have
I
at
think
102? You have Burks and
Hall.
102 would be whoever wasn't picked of Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson. Then 103 would be Drake London. Excuse me.
Okay, my thing. I think Garrett Wilson is tough with these qualifiers, right? Like great, but not amazing is how I'd say he is. Like he's a very, very good wide receiver, but he is someone that I would not have liked taking that high in any other draft. But with this draft, I think at a 103, 104 range, I think he's a very good pick. I just don't think he's far and away better than Treylon Burks or Drake London.
I agree with you, JT. I don't think he's far and away better than either of those guys. And the issue I have is like the price tag. I think Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal NFL prospect. He'll probably have a very good career. But taking him as high as 103 in the draft is just bonkers to me. Like, we saw Jamar Chase go there last year. I know the quarterbacks, dominated the top half of Superflex drafts last year. We're not going to get that same thing this year. But still, to get a guy like Jalen Waddle last year who went in the back half of drafts, probably picked 110 to 112. I think he was a better prospect than Garrett Wilson. So it's just tough for me to really take a guy that high.
I have an interesting exercise that we'll do after we talk about the other guy.
I think that Jamar Chase would probably be more than the pick to acquire than the pick to pick what's his name, Garrett Wilson. Dude, I was looking at a couple of tweets by this one dude that does like a lot of like startup ADP. That all the draft picks ADPs are like rounds down from average and last year, right? Like way down. So
That's interesting.
someone like Jamar Chase was around the third round, I'd say, of most Superflex startups, third, fourth round. I don't really think Garrett Wilson's going to be higher than that, or I mean, I think there's a good chance that this guy is going in like the 5th round to begin with Treylon Burks being the guy that has that high price tag.
I don't think either guy should be going in the 3rd, 4th round, but I think
Treylon Burks is a higher startup ADP right now than Garrett Wilson.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's pretty reasonable. I think most people have Treylon Burks as the
I know a lot of people have
one in this class.
I
don't think Wilson's far behind, but as of now, before draft capital, before combine numbers, all that kind of stuff, I think it's reasonable to have Treylon Burks ahead of him.
I mean, I understand that Treylon Burks is probably my wide receiver 2 or 3. I'm really high on him also. I was just surprised. I don't know. Garrett Wilson's been getting a lot of hype, so that's why I was like kind of surprised. But I don't know.
The problem for me is that I have so many receivers in this class ranked very similarly to each other, and that's
why
true. I don't feel the need to go take Garrett Wilson at 103 when I could wait and take David Bell at 109. Like, I don't see the difference.
I think David Bell's starting to get slept on.
I am in love with Garrett Wilson. I think that he's the best receiver prospect in this class, and I think he would have been probably my wide receiver 3 last year, or
he would have been wide receiver 2 last year.
Yeah, he would have been in the conversation for 2.
What does Garrett Wilson do better than every other receiver in this class that has you separating him from?
I just think he is an absolute puzzle piece fit to what you want as a receiver in the modern game. You can throw it to him in the flat, and it doesn't have to be a good throw either, because he's amazing at adjusting to low passes and passes thrown behind him. You can throw it up to him one-on-one. So, like, take all these wide zone offenses that everyone seems to be hiring offensive coaches from. You know, they're just doing these bootlegs, these naked boots where these quarterbacks are getting so much depth, and they have 3 levels to throw, generally speaking, with 2 guys in the flat, 1 intermediate, 1 long. Garrett Wilson, kind of like a guy like Cooper Kupp, right, can play every single one of those roles at a very high level.
So his route tree, his high, I don't know what the word I'm calling, but his route tree is very good. Is essentially what
he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's good going vertical. He has good separation. He has nuanced releases. I just think that there's like everything that you'd want. And on top of that, like I was saying the other episode, like analytically speaking as well, he's very strong. Like, I don't really see many holes that you can poke, other than the fact that, like, okay, I wish he was an inch taller and 5 pounds more, 10 pounds more, to be like an AJ Brown. But to be honest, I don't think that that's an issue. This guy is a great athlete. He was the top dog on an absolutely loaded offense of receivers. He commanded a high market share of the offense. The dude is a fucking beast. So, like, I was saying earlier, like, what is and is not generational? I think he's closer to generational than he is to not generational. So,
my question to you, Frank, and I'm going to just turn into a podcast listener at this point, is I'm struggling picking between Garrett Wilson and Drake London of who I like more. Can you explain to me? We'll just transition on to Drake London too while you do this, but can you explain to me why you much rather have Garrett Wilson than Drake London? Like, what does Drake London lack that Garrett Wilson?
Well, okay, so now we're going into my wide receiver two, which is Drake London. I'm also a big Drake London fan. I think that he's a phenomenal player. I think the thing that Garrett Wilson does better than Drake London is that Garrett Wilson has more versatility than Drake London. Drake London, you kind of you're taking your X receiver. You're taking the big dude. You want him to be your Mike Evans. You want him to be your DeAndre Hopkins, where you line him up on the outside, and if he's ever one-on-one, you know who you're throwing the ball up to. I think that Garrett Wilson, just with the way that coaches want receivers that can play every role, you can line him up anywhere. I can hide this guy and match him up any way that I want. You see a lot of the younger modern offensive coaches doing that, and doing it in creative ways with guys like Deebo Samuel, even getting receivers involved in the running game and lined up as H-backs and whatnot. With Drake London, you just get less of that, which isn't necessarily a huge negative, but I think that Garrett Wilson in this modern positionless receiver role is just amazing. Drake London, to me, is just a very good receiver prospect. I don't think he's an amazing level prospect. I think he's very good, and he does a lot of great things well. I think the community is massively underrating Drake London, but Garrett Wilson, to me, is just the top dog. So I guess he just checks more boxes than London does, and that's why I like him slightly more.
I would not be surprised come draft time. It's just entirely shaken up with maybe David Bell doesn't, jump into the top 3, but I think the top 3 could be, because right now I think it's Burks, Wilson, London, I think is consensus, but that could be completely different come draft day.
London for me, I'm really high on him. He's my wide receiver 4 this draft class. He may have bumped up to 3. I originally had Jamison Williams ahead of him at 3 when he was healthy, but the ACL tear. So I guess now he's 3. But
Drake London's also injured, right?
Yeah, no, I know. But
it's
the
not
thing,
as bad, but yeah.
Yeah, no, saying it's not as bad as injury. Drake London, I guess versus Garrett Wilson. Again, I'm saying this being insanely high on Drake London. I think Garrett Wilson is going to have better success against like those elite corners that try to press up on the line of scrimmage. I have more faith in kind of like an offense can use Garrett Wilson in a more diverse set of ways than London. And I do think London is going to be a really good outside receiver. I just see Wilson as you can plug him in wherever in your offense. You can run any route. London's route trees and route running ability isn't near the level of Wilson for me. So I don't know. I still like London a lot, but Wilson's just like he makes fools out of like every corner.
For the record, I mean, I like Drake London more than I like Garrett Wilson. I think he's the better NFL wide receiver here. The guy averaged 135 yards per game.
Yeah, fucking ridiculous.
Absolutely,
his production was insane.
Numbers, and like people are going to be like, "Oh, he played in the Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever it is." Like, who cares? He's playing with a USC quarterback that was. I don't even know who it was. Keaton Slovis got benched.
Jackson Dart was there for a little bit.
USC is going to be exciting next year.
Black.
Jackson Dart's a phenomenal top tier name, but anyways, but playing with nobody, and like if he can even do a fraction of that in the NFL, he's going to be an animal. He's 6'5", he's 210, he is a monster in the red zone. He's going to be an animal. Beyond that, he is a good route runner for his size. People say, "Oh, he's just a red zone threat." No, that's not the case. He's a good route runner for his size, and like just to put up those monster numbers week in, week out, regardless of what conference you play in, is just massively impressive. Obviously, I'm going to be checking out his medicals come combine time, make sure everything checks out. But right now, I definitely have Drake London higher than Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson is a system wide receiver to an extent.
Ooh.
I think to an extent he's a phenomenal talent. But I think that Ohio State offense, and if you look at the difference between him and Olave, they do the same thing. Him and Olave do exactly the same thing in this offense. Not to take anything away from Olave, but like JT said, he would have come out last year if he was really as talented as Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, all those guys from
I will
last
always
year.
hammer that point home.
So,
I think what you guys got to consider, and where I'm going to back you up here, Jake, is Drake London. What's really impressive about Drake London to me is he was able to, in his freshman and sophomore year, carve out a very nice role for himself. When he had in his freshman year, it was Michael Pittman and Amon-Ra, and then in his sophomore year, Amon-Ra, and he was still able, it wasn't crazy stats, but he was able to hold his own. And then obviously when he became a junior, he was the easy alpha of this team, like just incredible stats in his junior year. So I for one, I think I'm going to put London 2, Wilson 3 right now, but like those two flip-flop back and forth in my mind every single time. But this is a USC team that's produced 2 solid wide receivers so far, albeit ones that I think are pretty overrated. And I just think Drake London is better than both Michael Pittman and
dude, there's a long
Amon-Ra.
list of good USC receivers, from Robert Woods to Juju Smith-Schuster, Michael Pittman. I mean,
DJ
there's
Chark.
DJ. No,
it was
he went to LSU.
Yeah, LSU.
Nelson
Well,
Aguilar was good at USC.
Yeah, there's a good list of them. Not necessarily they're all amazing, but they're pretty damn good players. Amon-Ra, right? Like JT said, Drake London is easily better than all these guys, and I think that the big knock on him is like, oh, he's an N'Keal Harry. He's not going to be able to create separation. But I think that I was not a big N'Keal Harry guy. I really didn't like him as a prospect, but I love Drake London because I think the big difference is that at the catch point, Drake London is so much better at creating separation with his body control and those, little push-offs and whatnot that you're able to get away with. A guy like AB was really good at that, creating separation at the catch point. And on top of the fact, I think that while N'Keal Harry was also decent with the ball in his hands, I think Drake London is just better with the ball in his hands. I think that Drake London can easily be that DeAndre Hopkins in the league. The dude is amazing. He is a very, very good prospect.
So, to be clear, you think Drake London can be a DeAndre Hopkins, but you love Garrett Wilson then because he's your wide
Yeah,
receiver.
I like these. These are my easy wide receiver 1 and 2 right now. Drake London, Garrett Wilson. The interesting thing about Drake London is what Jake said earlier, right? And kind of like JT, the dude has just produced 71 yards a game as a freshman, 84 yards a game as a sophomore, 136 yards a game as a senior, right? Ridiculous linear trajectory. You comp him to N'Keal Harry, who played in the same conference last 2 years of N'Keal Harry's year, 90 and 93 yards a game. Very little linear trajectory there, plateaued. They play in the same conference. Drake London easily outperformed him. And also in all of his contested catch stats as well. Drake London just destroyed everyone. And he's good with the ball in his hands. And he's, I think, like Jay said, a better route runner than advertised. The problem with USC is that offense, they didn't really ask their receivers to run very complicated routes. It's like
his route
it's an
tree
air
is
raid-esque
than
offense. So the plays are easy. How is London like Hopkins? I think the reason they're very similar is they both have really safe, sticky hands that they can catch in contested catches scenarios. And they're both much better than you would expect with the ball in their hands. DeAndre Hopkins, when I did my Arizona Cardinals analysis, I was shocked with how good he was at making defenders miss on screen passes and ended space and just being a ball carrier after the catch. You would think that a guy that's 6'5", 220, 6', 215 would just be an easier dude to tackle because he's just kind of lanky, right? No,
He's
not the
quick.
case at all. If he's one-on-one with a smaller corner, it's tough to bring this dude down, and he's shifty. There's a whole lot you just don't see it coming. They throw the ball to him just at the line of scrimmage. He's able to make these fast corners miss so easily. All right. So this is the my receiver episode. I love these guys. I want to draft them. I just don't have the quality of first round picks.
My game, which I'm now realizing I don't think it'll play as well, but we could try it, is where we would have drafted him in relation to the receivers last year, as in Chase, Devontae, Waddle. So we all agree we're not taking any of them over Chase, right?
Out of
Now,
these two over Chase, no, but Garrett Wilson will be my wide receiver too in last year's class over
Well,
Smith and Waddle.
where I realized this was going to be an issue is we all had a different wide receiver. Like, yeah, I had Rashad Bateman. Frank was Devontae Smith. I think you guys were on the Waddle train.
We were both, me and Jake were both kind of Waddle and Smith being like a 2A, 2B kind of thing.
I would have
Random.
had
I mean,
Devontae Smith and
at least I did.
Jamar Chase. It definitely in the conversation of these guys, probably ahead of them. But everyone else, I'd have London and Garrett Wilson over Bateman, Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore, Waddle, all those dudes. Dimey Brown.
Well, yeah, now we're getting. To me, I would have gone Chase. Then I probably would have said Bateman, to be honest, if I'm sticking with how I thought about these prospects. I think I still would have said Bateman. Then I would have said Burks. I don't know. I still really like Terrace Marshall, but we'll pretend I didn't like Terrace Marshall. Garrett Wilson, Drake London, I think would both be there. Then I'd say Waddle. Then David Bell, then Devontae would be how I would rank all those guys.
I gotta think more on Burks and Jameson, but I know for London and Wilson, I probably would have had a Chase, Wilson, Waddle, Smith. I had kind of like a 2A, 2B that draft, so 3A, 3B, then London after that.
So I think my real question is where it's these two guys first, Jalen Waddle. Who's ranking Waddle above them? Who's ranking Waddle below them? Jake, you got Waddle above.
I mean,
Well,
I've been the Waddle
you're the
guy
Waddle
from the beginning. I mean, what do these guys do that Waddle doesn't and hasn't proven he can do in the NFL? I don't know how you can't take.
Well, no, this would have been you just got.
Well, no, we're talking about
strictly
coming
look at
out of college,
prospects.
not
we're
knowing
not
what
talking
he
about.
I
did in
mean,
the
coming
NFL.
out of college, the biggest issue with Waddle was his injury, and Drake London also has an injury. So
Like the
I
same
just
injury.
like the same exact injury. So, I mean, I think Waddle has this better speed than both of these guys. Waddle had a better route tree than Drake London, pretty similar to Garrett Wilson. So he has the size of Garrett Wilson. He's about the same size, about 6 foot, 190. I think he was just a slightly better prospect than Garrett Wilson and Drake London, both these guys, but they would follow right after for me.
I think Waddle has the edge on Wilson in athleticism, but I think Wilson was a little bit more polished coming out.
Yeah, I'm just judging off of what I have them as my pre-draft grades. I had Waddle, and this is a miss on my part. I had him as like a late first round NFL prospect. So I have London and Garrett Wilson above that.
I'd probably side with Frank, even though I was a little higher on Waddle, but I think I like these two better than I would have liked Waddle last year.
But I
These
mean,
two would have been my 3-4 in the class, with Devontae Smith then falling to 5 is how that would have played out for me.
So I had Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase's early first round grades pre-draft last year, and I have Garrett Wilson in that tier 1 early first round grade, and then I have Drake London in that tier 2 mid early first, like more like that teen spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that it's not like it's hard to call it a mid first, but it's not an early first, so mid early,
Mm-hmm.
Pick it up and put it down there.
no, I got
that. I wanted to get this last thing because I was saying there's really no holes in Garrett Wilson's profile. I think there is one thing that I don't like, and I give him a pass for it because of the offense that he played in and how much of a role he had carved out of that offense, especially when you look at Justin Jefferson's market share numbers, right, of the LSU offense. He only went from 90.4 yards per game his sophomore year to 96.2 yards per game his junior year, which does fit my over 5 yards per game more than last year as the threshold that I've used for linear trajectory, but it's not a lot, so maybe there's a little bit of a plateau going on there. I'm not buying into it, but it is something that I guess is in the back of my mind. Like if I wildly miss on Garrett Wilson, like I'm gonna probably point back and be like, oh well, that was probably my clue.
I think what you could point to that is most likely not the case for many other receivers that have that plateau is he had someone, Olave, who decided to stay, who like may have been able to go in the draft, and then he also on the other side had the emergence of Jackson Smith and Jigba. Who
I was gonna say, I feel like in a year or two, when we see how good Smith and Jigba is gonna be, like it's gonna be way more understandable why Wilson probably couldn't get as many yards.
You want
Same way, like with Jefferson having Chase across from him. Like I think Smith and Jigba is gonna be a Chase level prospect by the time he comes out.
I was watching one of those like entire offense cut up, so just like all the offensive plays for Ohio State against someone. I forget who it was. It was a red team. Yeah, I can't remember the name. It was a color though.
Red team?
Yeah, I think it was a red team.
Nebraska,
Indiana,
Indiana.
I forget.
Maryland,
but long story short, I'm watching and I saw it wasn't Garrett Wilson, but I thought it was Olave have a really nice release. And I'm like, oh shit, that was nice. I got to watch that again. And I'm like, okay, well, it looks like I'm moving Olave up a little bit. Like that was really polished. And all of a sudden I see him at the top of the route. It's 11. I'm like, oh shit, dude. Smith and Jig was good. That dude is a beast.
Wait, Jake, you don't think by the time Smith and Jigba comes out, he could be close to Chase level?
He just doesn't. I mean, I have to look at it more, but I mean, I don't think he has the.
I've never seen an underclassman dominate like him and Chase.
I mean, Jamar Chase. Well,
Jamar him and Chase.
No, but Jamar Chase dominated on like Jamar Chase is like a once in every couple decades.
Jamar Chase was like.
Jamar Chase also did at Burrow. I'm not saying he's gonna be better than Chase. I think he's
Stroud, level. 5-star, all the accolades you could want.
Yeah, I don't think CJ Stroud's as good as Burrow though, but I think that y'all's point is more valid than Lounis's though. I don't know if you can start giving him like, dude. Jamar Chase did his production was. Nuts.
I'm not convinced Jackson. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not even convinced he's the best one in the class. Like there's still
you like the Butte
and Quinn Johnson from TCU.
Yeah, he's been getting a lot of hype. I'm pretty sure he's like a big PFF dude.
I'll see y'all in the bandwagon in a year.
The bandwagon's already happened.
Back when T-Law's still in that top 10/9.
But / just the QB1 / top 15 / still the starter.
Anything else y'all want to get out on these draft prospects before we dip?
I think that's all I got for you. I have nothing.
Oh, and Garrett Wilson was a punt / kick returner.
Oh wow!
Which is nice.
Waddle.
Yeah, so was Waddle. So
falls into Jake's. What I was comparing the two.
I really like these wide receiver prospects though. Just closing thoughts from the mock drafts I've seen. I think that Drake London and Garrett Wilson they are gaining a little bit more hype, but from what I've seen, especially a lot of these mocks where these quarterbacks are going a lot earlier than I would have thought, especially for the trash they got.
I think that's going to change once people see the actual draft capital put into these guys.
Yeah, but what about the running back? Like Isaiah Spiller, I think there's a lot of people that would take Isaiah Spiller over both of these receivers and even Kenneth Walker. So, like, I don't think it's completely unreasonable to get – like, if you're sitting there with a 106 or a 107, I think there might be a decent chance that one of these two receivers who you can make a clear argument should be the wide receiver one is sitting there.
I mean, I think there's a very good chance one of them is sitting there, or that means Treylon Burks is going to be sitting there for you. So it's not 107.
One of those top three are going to be there.
107 is not going to be as bad as everyone's making it out to be.
All right, so I think that is a good place to wrap it up, though. Season 2, episode 26. Thank you all for listening. If you're on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, comment. Any questions, if you want to comment them down below, if you've made it this far, we'll try and get to some of them. I know we try and answer them in chat. If you're on podcast, I don't know. Where's the best place? Third and 20 on Twitter is probably the best place to reach us at 3RD.
Link in the description down below as well.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. See you.